Welcome to the Benji channel. My name is Benji, and today I want to discuss the much anticipated One Piece Film Red movie that came out at this time of me recording this last week, at least for the American audience. And I want to give you an unbiased review of what I truly thought about this movie and how it may stack up against other One Piece films. And with it being centered around one of my favorite characters in One Piece, Shanks. So basically for this review, there will be spoilers, but I'll kind of detail the plots, and then I'll try to go into the good and the bad of this movie. And then after that, I'll try to give a very unbiased score of what I truly thought the movie kind of sits at, for me at least. But before I begin, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the Benji channel. I make weekly One Piece videos, and soon to be I will be making more anime and manga content that's deviant from One Piece. But I will be making that soon, so please go ahead and subscribe and have notifications on. And if you haven't already, go ahead and join the Discord as well as the Geek Giant podcast. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and dive into the movie review of what I thought about One Piece Film Red. So to start, let's interpret the plot first. So the movie begins with what could be considered a music festival. But it's more so of a concert since it's only one person performing, but it seems more so grandiose, as if it were a music festival, but you know, I digress. But this one person who is performing is none other than the most renowned singer in what seems to be the One Piece world, Yuta. But her singing isn't the only thing that Yuta has going on for her, and let me explain. She is also a dear friend of Luffy, and even more significant, she's one of the daughters of one of the greatest Yonkos within the seas, Shanks. Now this is told back to us within the first few minutes of the film. And to be honest, it's something that we kind of could have pieced together within the trailers that they gave us. Yet after this is where we move on to the spoiler territory. Now a couple of fights break out here and there in order to get to the main plot of the story. And it is soon discovered that Yuta, who seems to be an ally of Luffy, seems to be a semi-antagonist of the movie. And this is where things start to get more intriguing as the plot goes along within the movie. Basically, it is said that Yuta was abandoned by Shanks. And from this occurrence alone, it seems that she has developed a hatred for pirates. And this has led her to reject Luffy's dream of becoming the king of the pirates. Yuta simply wants a world where she can have pirates, marines, anybody basically, not have to worry about the worries, the oppression, and the anguish of the real One Piece world. So Yuta, who is extremely powerful to be honest, has a special ability where if she sets you asleep with her song, she is capable of creating an entire world outside of reality. So basically, Yuta literally has an infinite Tsukuyomi. Shout out to the Naruto fans. But long story short, the Straw Hats, along with friends and even foes, must band together in order to stop Yuta from creating this world. And that basically is our plot. And during the movie, I thoroughly enjoyed kind of watching how the plot was more and more fleshed out as we got a little bit of information here and a little bit of information there. And I will be honest, I honestly didn't anticipate Yuta being the villain for this film. And her stepfather Gordon looked like more of the typical One Piece movie villain. Yet they tricked you, and Gordon is actually a pretty nice guy. But while the movie has a very good plot that kind of reels you in within those middle acts, it does take a while to kind of get going at the beginning of the movie. So while I mentioned that, I do want to discuss the lacking elements of One Piece Film Red. And before I begin, these are all my opinions. Obviously, this isn't going to be the same for everyone else who watched it, but this is just my opinions. And for number one, I will have to say the first act. While One Piece has some very interesting first acts within their array of films, One Piece Film Red takes a considerable amount of time to really get going. And this could kind of be explained by giving non-readers or even non-anime watchers, but I don't know if you're a non-anime watcher, why would you, you know what, never mind. But basically, the first act does set up a little bit of explanation on what is happening and how the story might take place. But if we're going to be honest, the first act is kind of stuffed with songs. Now, really quick, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed a lot of the music that was in Film Red. But there came a time when, sometimes even a good song may sound kind of cringe when you're watching it in a movie theater. That's just how I felt. Sometimes you kind of cringe at a song even though the song isn't really that bad. I don't know, but one thing I will say, I feel like songs did add an element to the story, but it was more so the distributions of songs, especially in the first act, which was very prominent with songs compared to the other acts. Now, my number 2 flaw with this movie was kind of the disconnect of certain characters within the film. There are some characters in the film that you really enjoy seeing, but they add little or nothing to the plot whatsoever other than being a cool cameo. And really quick, what they did to Law in this movie should be a war crime. They turned him into fodder. Look at this. Look at it. But lastly, and one of the things that truly deprived me of the experience that I really wanted with One Piece Film Red was not enough. I guess you could say, on a serious note, that one of the things that kind of detracted me from Film Red was Yuta herself. And before I continue, I like Yuta, but I did have some trouble empathizing with a lot of her moments and decisions within this movie. But I did like Yuta, and she a little nice waifu, she look good, she looking good. She is a very promising character, but her decisions and motives at times ultimately don't all the way make sense. In a lot of aspects, her viewpoints on peace is very commendable, wanting the suffering of people to ultimately stop within the One Piece world. But this soon becomes dismantled a little bit later on because it turns out she knew the truth about Shanks, even before this conflict. Yet she still wanted to be, in a way, selfish and forcibly put everyone in an infinite Tsukuyomi. Oh, and one more thing. Shout out to Little Man in the movie. He was really like, hey, yo, it's been nice, listen to all these songs and shit. But, I got to go back home and kind of feed these cows, feed these sheep, so I'm going to holler at you later, It's been real. But anyways, this doesn't mean that Yuta was a terrible character in the slightest. Because I do think that her character as a whole was supposed to be flawed and immature. She had been devoid of any meaningful relationship after the incident. And this was her way of making the world right, yet her execution was pretty shit. But pretty much that was it for all of the bad within this movie. Let's move on to the good, because in One Piece Film Red, there is actually a lot. And let's start with the red-haired man himself, Shanks, who was an absolute beast in this film. And he was able to do so much without even having one named attack within the film as well. Shanks truly reinforced that his mysterious presence and good-natured demeanor can very much carry a movie. Luffy, the best boy himself, was also excellent in this movie. And his trust in Shanks throughout this movie just was great to see. But I do believe that Oda himself kind of spoke on this as well, that he wanted this movie to be made, but he didn't want to give away all of his bag of tricks when it comes to Shanks and his character. And I agree. The gratification of Shanks finally seeing Luffy once he become a great pirate is going to happen. But I do think it will be very anticlimactic if it were to happen in a movie as opposed to the actual source material. But they cleverly preserved that moment, and the gratification of seeing Luffy and Shanks meet once more and Luffy giving Shanks the straw hat back wasn't spoiled. The little parallel universe thing that they did within the movie was actually very clever, and I thought it was pretty cool. And the moment that was absolutely insane to have Shanks and Luffy do a combined attack was nuts. And during this part of the movie, I was actually across from a stranger that I had never met in my life, and we were both looking at each other, and I'm pretty sure he was a manga reader once that specific part of the movie came into existence. Gear 5th. And I don't know what kind of attack Shanks did. I hope it is explained in the manga, but he did some kind of blue flame kind of attack that was super crazy and dope, and kind of gives me more hype for Sanji. I'm just saying, but I think all of that is super dope. But after that scene in particular, it was kind of crazy, especially the movie theater that I was in, that a lot of the patrons who were in the movie theater actually clapped after seeing the first animated scene of Gear 5th. And that's the thing, the moments within this movie were so epic. I don't think I've had this much enjoyment with a One Piece movie in a good while. I did like Stampede, but I didn't necessarily, resonate with it as much as I did with this film. And then I would say probably Strong World would be the other kind of feeling that I got with a One Piece movie of this caliber. The Usopp and Yasop fight, which was absolutely dope. To be honest, if we're gonna be honest, Usopp might really be the MVP of film Red. We also got to see what seemed like an offshoot scene of Ifrit Jambi from my boy Sanji. Zoro having those crazy moments for himself, having that side-by-side attack with Ben Beckman. The atmosphere was larger than life, and to be honest, I couldn't get enough of it. And aside from those moments, the lore that was presented about the Toad musical was very alluring and piqued my interest once it was revealed. And also, the humor in One Piece films in general are always something that I look forward to when I watch one. But one thing that I realized after maybe like the middle act of One Piece film Red, when I looked around and I saw a semi-packed theater, and it was just for those 2 hours I felt like these people are just like me. We all have some attachment to One Piece and this wonderful story. Yet I know one day this series will end, and as corny as it sounds, the laughs and the hype that we feel are going to be something I cherish for a lifetime as a One Piece fan. And that was one of the major takeaways from this film, living in the moment and enjoy all of the aspects of what One Piece has to offer, good or bad. But with all this being said, you probably want to hear what my rating for One Piece film Red was at the end of it. And if you give me a drum roll, please. I give One Piece film Red a 8.3 out of 10. The movie, yes, in certain areas was lacking, and yes, Yuta did get on my nerves at some point in time with her decisions and a couple of them songs. But as a One Piece fan, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie through and through. Whether it be those songs that kind of add more story elements to the plot, or even that final chaotic, crazy final act that we got, I was in my seat enjoying every single moment of it. And if we're gonna be honest, it kind of ranks in my top 5 of the best One Piece films of all time. I enjoyed it more than Stampede. But thank you so much for watching my One Piece film Red movie review. Go ahead and subscribe to the Smoke Benji channel. I make weekly videos on One Piece as well as other anime and manga series as well, so please stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much. I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you for all of the love and support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.